A first-person Souls-like? How very novel. I'll admit I'm not a huge fan of the genre, but what I am is a massive fan of Ghost Runner. So when I heard that developer One More Level was presenting something new at Gamescom, I leapt at the opportunity to get my hands on it. As I sat in the crowd of opening night live, I learned from its announcement trailer, along with everyone else, that the game I would play the next day was called Valor Mortis. Set in a brutal, alternate history 17th century Europe, you play as an undead soldier who once served Napoleon Bonaparte. However, a lot has changed since your untimely death on the battlefield. The once picturesque countryside of Europe has been infected with a deadly plague that threatens to corrupt everything you fought for in life. A hostile world you no longer know.
With level designer Wukash Wabik at my side, I began my journey on a plague-stricken battlefield, one of the many scarred sites of the Napoleonic Wars. The setting is thoroughly compelling and tonally appropriate for a Souls-like like this one. It's a genre that often likes to show rather than tell when it comes to narrative. The protagonist doesn't know why they've been resurrected or why everything around them is corrupted. The cryptic narrative is being fed to you through echoes of the past, remnants of what transpired in a specific spot that are replayed to you in the present. Valor Mortis also has my favorite trope, a mysterious character or two who give vague hints about the story that surrounds you but insist that you must uncover the truth for yourself. In this case, an individual points me towards my old captain as the best source of information. I adore the idea of slowly unraveling a conspiracy in an apocalyptic world. Bonus points if there's some substantial darkness present in the setting. Ghost Runner 2 had a decent story, but there's no doubt that it was a gameplay-first kind of experience. Wabik admits that a higher production budget has allowed One More Level to focus on narrative depth in Valor Mortis rather than viewing it as an afterthought. The first thing that struck me about the gameplay is that you're using both hands in Valor Mortis, one hand for your sword and the other for either a pistol or magic. It's reminiscent of something like Dishonored, which also places a weapon in each of the player's hands. The movement of Valor Mortis is where I really began to take a shine to it. I'll admit, I'm not a big fan of dodge rolling or any of the slow-paced movement mechanics of Dark Souls. There's a lot of skill in these mechanics, yes, but I prefer something that looks and feels fluid.
Free-flowing movement. Valor Mortis has a quick dodge mechanic that's gated by stamina to stop you from spamming it. My personal favorite video game mechanic is also present, parrying. A normal melee-on-melee encounter involves dashing in, swinging one's sword a few times, parrying an opponent's attacks, or failing that, dashing out of harm's way. I love parrying because it enables combat to be a series of beautifully clutch moments. Even the most unwinnable of situations can be navigated if you play perfectly. It's very Ghost Runner, a series that necessitates perfect gameplay because the player only has a single point of health throughout. Here, though, you're a little more durable, but still can't take a whole lot of punishment. The offhand pistol doesn't do a lot of damage unless you're targeting weak points, bulbous plague-filled sacs that have sprouted on the bodies of certain enemy types. You can switch your offhand to magic after finding your first spell. In this case, a continuous burst of flame that shoots from your hand for as long as you hold the button. Note, spells are also a way of blocking progress and funneling the player in one direction. In the preview, I had to get the fire spell to burn through some rot that was blocking my progress. I found the magic out of tune with the rest of the experience, in all honesty. It never felt right to break up the fluidity of melee combat by getting in range to slowly immolate the enemy. You can't just keep casting the spell indefinitely because enemies will still swing at you while they burn, so I never found a practical use for such abilities. I'm sure the full release will have longer range damage spells or more utility-focused magic that I'll find more useful, but I never found myself swapping out my pistol for the fire and combat. One thing I'll be keeping an eye out for is the level structure. The preview was relatively linear, albeit with a couple of nooks that branched off from the main progression path. I get the sense that Valor Mortis is not intended to be open world, but I do hope levels deeper into the game are more expansive than the one I played, which was one of the game's first. Now, what makes Valor Mortis a Souls-like rather than, say, a first-person action RPG? Well, there are a couple of staples of the genre present. You collect experience from enemies and upgrade your characters at lanterns dotted around the world, which are also your respawn points, similar to bonfires from Dark Souls. You also have a limited number of healing potions that are replenished at lanterns. There are also boss doors, complete with the smoking yellow effect fans of the genre will know and love. Boss battles happen in boss arenas, separated from the world by these doors. You drop most of your experience points on the ground when you perish, and you'll have to go collect them from your corpse if you want them back. When I eventually did encounter my old captain, he didn't have any answers for me at all. In fact, he was now a malformed creature, swollen with plague and wielding an impressive array of blunderbusses with his many hands. I loved this fight. Learning the boss's attack patterns and perfect parrying staggered him, allowing me to deal massive damage. It was two-phased, with the boss becoming more aggressive in his second, more powerful form. It took me around 4 tries to finally best the beast, with my successful run coming down to a life-or-death parry that I pulled off at the last second. It was exhilarating and really sold me on the genre mashup One More Level is trying to pull off with Valor Mortis. The combination of the interesting setting and the fast-paced gameplay has me very excited, even as a non-Souls-like fan.